Sometimes people ask me, Jack, do you have kids? And my answer is always, I don't know, maybe. I'm expecting a knock on the door any day now. Speaking of unwanted kids, though, when I was a child, sometimes I do wonder. Like, I'll go in the back of my mind and ask myself, if I could go back in time and talk to my 12-year-old self, what would I say? Choose different glasses. For one, they're too big.
And it's easy to come up with off the shelf things I'd like to tell myself. Things like how to be successful, or what to change about myself, or the bad decisions I need to avoid, and so on. And I've been thinking about this for a few weeks now, and I don't know. It feels like it wouldn't help at all. Because here's the problem. The problem is that if I had the actual chance to travel back in time and talk to myself, I wouldn't listen. And I wouldn't listen mostly because when I was younger, I had a huge crippling problem where I didn't think anyone was as smart as me. And that's lasted for a while. And it's cost me opportunities and relationships. And I'm constantly going through this process of ego death that I need to experience to be less of a self-sabotager.
So the time travel exercise is moot, anyways, because I know I wouldn't listen to myself. But it got me thinking, if I were 12 years old with my 12-year-old brain, what would I have listened to? What would have been the right way to talk to me?
Now, I am neither a parent nor a doctor, so I can't tell you how to talk to your kid. But if you find yourself falling into a time sink into 1992 and end up meeting 14-year-old me, this is how I think you should do it. First of all, arm yourself with a lot of patience, like a lot of patience. There is an enormous inconsistency in how kids with ADHD process and learn things, and it's all related to what their special interests are and whether or not their brain is cooperating that day. So, something that takes us no time to master can feel like a slog the literal next day. We also sometimes can't access knowledge on command, so it feels like we have forgotten things we have literally just learned.
It's like our brain is one of those 1990s GeoCities websites. The information is all there in the server, but after moving some things around to make room for more information, all the links broke. We do know the things, we just don't know where to find them. Which brings me to my next point. How do you teach someone with ADHD? Well, hands-on experience is key.
Several times in my life, people have tried to teach me things by telling me how to do the thing, or just by telling me to do the thing from the get-go. This is why lectures don't work, and 2-hour classes are the literal definition of hell for us. You know what I learned in high school? I learned how to make comics. I learned basic anatomy rules in drawing. I learned about pacing and panels and how to break up dialogue into several different bubbles so that it's easier to read.
Why? Because I was in a classroom anywhere from 45 minutes to 1.5 hours, not being able to talk, move, fiddle with my hands, or look out the window. The only thing I could do to stop my mind from drowning was flip the notebook over to the last page and start doodling.
That's because for people like us, it's easier to learn things by doing the things and doing them several times, even.
My mom could tell me to go make the bed, but if she didn't teach me how to do it, or why it was important, or how to turn it into a habit, it would just turn into another command that I didn't fully understand, and my brain would push it to the back of the priority queue.
And when it came to social activities, it was even worse, because kids would expect you to know certain things already, or be labeled an idiot.
Nobody taught me how to play football, soccer, when I was a kid. So there's one time in recess, I was playing with some kids and the ball goes out of bounds. So the kids go, they give me the ball and they go like, take a corner kick. And I froze. And I froze because I had no idea what they were talking about.
And I felt stupid and like an outsider, and I stopped trying to play football during recess altogether because it was an activity that nobody taught me how to do that was actually giving me social anxiety.
But I was really good at cross-stitching at around the same time because my mom and my grandma sat with me and taught me how to do it. They didn't give me like a book on cross stitching and told me to figure it out. They sat down and they started cross stitching. They seemed like they were having fun doing it, so I kind of just joined in. And I got super into it because it was easy. Not because cross stitching is easier than football, it's not. But because anything you practice with a mentor, with somebody that's showing you how to do it, eventually becomes real easy.
The best way for me to learn has been when people do the thing in front of me and help me understand it and have patience, and they do it over and over and over again. See, kids with my condition find it easier to learn by repetition. The more you do something, the easier it becomes. So unless you show us what to do and correct us when something is wrong, there's just simply no way we're going to be able to appropriately learn what you're trying to teach us.
I didn't learn how to play football when I was a kid because nobody taught me the rules or what a team sport actually involves.
It involves playing as a team.
Nobody taught me how to manage money or build a company or how to cook. And the expectation is always, if you don't ask, nobody's going to teach you. And I get that, but it also slowed me down and kind of hindered my development in certain areas because I was super behind every other kid that learned things in a different, more normal way.
The thing about ADHD is that we do need help and we do need that extra care. We need someone to come up and say, I see you're struggling. Do you want me to sit down and show you how I do it?
The only things that I really got good at were things that my brain was like automatically interested in. So I went out of my way to learn how to get good at those. And by going out of my way, what I mean is I searched for experts and books and classes that would teach me how to do these things. So I learned how to draw that way, and eventually I learned how to cook that way, and eventually I learned how to sing that way. Show me, don't tell me.
Another point, we have a very active imagination. Our mind shoots off in several different directions. It biologically cannot stay put.
Our train of thought jumps from one place to another really fast, and for some people it's difficult to follow.
When I was a kid, I quickly learned not a lot of people have the patience for that. It was hard to participate in certain conversations because I could never stay on topic, and also because my questions had nothing to do with the subject at hand.
So people would think I wasn't interested. And at the same time, I would have my questions remain unanswered. And I get that it's annoying having a conversation with somebody that can't seem to follow it. But that's part of the condition. A little patience goes a long way.
Here's another thing to be aware of. Look out for microaggressions.
There's a common symptom within ADHD that's called rejection sensitive dysphoria, or RSD. RSD is not a mental condition by itself per se, but it manifests very commonly within people who have ADHD.
What it means is that people with this particular condition tend to take rejection a lot harder than their peers. We immediately feel rejected and we take everything personal, and we tend to think everyone hates us at the slightest indication of rejection. And it's a double threat of sorts because on one hand, there's people like me who immediately feel worthless for next to no reason. And on the other hand, there are people thinking, quite reasonably, that we are exaggeratedly sensitive. It doesn't surprise me how someone would walk away from people like me.
It's very difficult to pour a lot of energy into a relationship only to get the message back that it's not enough, or having the other person misinterpret it constantly. I remember though, when I was younger, this thing was 1,000 times more powerful. Why? Because I had very poor emotional regulation. Meaning I got carried away by my emotions more often than not, and that became a problem. Having feelings is great, having emotions is great, being emotional is great, and being in touch with those feelings is, once again, 5 stars, highly recommend, would feel that emotion again.
But when those feelings get distorted and you start feeling like you're being rejected when the reality is wildly different, it could cost you friendships and opportunities at works and so on.
Now, this is all to say that kids with ADHD, since we're a little more emotional, we tend to internalize microaggressions a lot more deeply. Being told we don't care enough to remember a meeting, or to remember someone's birthday, or being told we're not good enough at work, or being told that we should have known better before doing something. All of these tend to leave a very deep mark on people with ADHD. And I'm not saying you gotta treat us with like kid gloves or anything, but to a young person with ADHD, they might learn to identify that this is coming from somebody who is an unsafe person, a bully. And that's when we shut down and we stop talking to you and we isolate, because this is no longer, you are no longer a safe space.
One more. Be kind with our memory. It's a huge part of this condition. Our memory is volatile. We might remember things like every actor that's ever been in a movie, and that's a cool party trick, but it also makes people think that when you don't remember things, it's because you personally don't care about those things, and it hurts to hear.
You have to understand that people with ADHD don't do things like forgetting to make the bed or forgetting someone's birthday or forgetting where they left every single bottle of water around the house on purpose. We do it because this is part of the condition. This is exactly what it does to us.
Honestly, I didn't even begin to understand how much this grates people until I started living by myself.
There was nobody else in the house where I could go like, oh, they left this bottle out again, or oh, they left the glasses over here again, or oh, they didn't make the dishes again. But we don't do it on purpose, and we definitely don't do it as a personal slight. We're not weaponizing this, but it's really hard to explain to people, especially when you display such a photographic memory for other less consequential things. Part of the journey for people with ADHD is to understand that this mental illness is not our fault, but it is our responsibility. Sadly, when we are met with doubt or mistrust or bullying, it takes us a long time to recover from that. Things we could have learned earlier in life only land years later.
We constantly feel like we are behind, and I'm not sure about you, but being told that I'm so smart constantly and from a very early age only made me feel even more inadequate.
Cause hey, if I'm so smart, what am I doing here, sitting on the couch staring at the ceiling, wishing I had Jedi mind powers so the dishes would do themselves? So I don't know. If I could go back in time, what would I say to myself? I guess the only thing I can think of is it's going to take time. More time than you think to even begin feeling like yourself.
Have patience with whoever's got ADHD in your circle, because we're learning how to have patience with ourselves too. It's gonna take time.